Buenos días. This is DJ Morena Libre. We are here at the Feminist Hour, la hora feminista. Hoy es 10 de marzo y son las 11 de la mañana. Hoy me tocó sola. Me abandonaron. DJ JC se fue a ver a los Temerarios. Y ahorita va en camino, así que le deseo buen camino. A ver si está escuchando. Pero nos abandonó. Así que hoy estoy sola. Pero no tan sola. Más de rato me va a llegar un estudiante. I'm going to get a student later on. His name is Edgar. He's going to be joining me. He works for Vaquero Radio. He's a reporter, and he's going to be joining us just to talk a little bit, get some student voices in here as well. I also had another guest, but they had something else going on. So we hopefully, maybe, we'll have them later. But it was Texas Rising. Let me see. So it is around 81 degrees over here in Bronzeville. It's a beautiful day. And it's showing that it's going to be a high of about 87 with a low of 69. So, and I think we're still around the full moon stage right now. So enjoy that full moon later on tonight. This week, before we go to the next segment and the music break, I just want to briefly talk about this past week. So March 8th, we, as a global community, we celebrate Día de la Mujer. And this year, I was able to attend and table as well a wonderful event in the Bronzeville Event Center. And I tabled for the department I work in, which is the School of Interdisciplinary Programs and Community Engagement. We call it short for SIPSI, right? Or SIPSI. So I went. It was a great event. I saw a lot of people I hadn't seen in years. It keeps reminding me that when I go to events like this, I'm reminded that Bronzeville, although it has a large population, people still know each other in some way or another. So we're connected very well here in Bronzeville. But it was a wonderful event. Congratulations to Churroca, which is an organization, a cultural revival organization that is housed in the Bronzeville Performing Arts Center in downtown Bronzeville. But congratulations to them because they put a wonderful event together. And then just the whole month, just keep in mind that this entire month is Women's History Month. And as we talked briefly last week about it, it's really for me, it's an intervention, es una intervención, in what would otherwise be a male-dominated history. So it's just one of those interventions that seeks to normalize, right, the idea that women are 50% of the population of the world, if not more by now, and that we contribute to every aspect of society. And so, it would be great that it'd be more than a month, but again, it's an intervention, right? And it allows schools, workplaces to be able to, highlight the work that women do, because otherwise it would not happen. So just keep in mind, check out all the events that are going on around your cities and at UTRGV as well, right? So thank you for that. What's ahead? So I am going to be talking about, some news. What are 5 things to know for today? We're going to be listening to some music that we've bought along the semesters, or Vaquero Radio has purchased for us. And we're going to listen to some of those as well that we hadn't had a chance to put up on the radio or during the Feminist Hour. So I'm excited for that, so you can listen to some of these great songs. I started us out with Adele. And this is one of the songs that I really like from Adele. And I'm not a major fan, but I love her voice, and I think she's she brings she's like almost like the I don't know what's her name. You see, this is why I need DJ JC. Anyway, her voice is great. It's beautiful, and I think she's like national. I don't know. She just great voice, great voice. Um, but yeah, so and I want to do some shout outs later on. I've been really busy this entire week and really past 2 weeks, just preparing for some of the events for this week that I've been part of. So I just want to do some shout outs later on because I've been interacting with a lot of people, more than usual, and I've been getting to talk to a lot of people as well in the community. So I just want to, do some shout outs to them. And that's it. So we are going to listen. The next song that I'm going to play, it's called Midnight Train to Georgia. So I just recently found out through my mother that this was one of my grandfather's favorite songs, and it's by Gladys Knight and the Pips. And just listen to it. It's a beautiful song, and yeah, this is going to my grandfather who left us a few years ago, 2009. So this is to him wherever he's at listening. That was Midnight Train to Georgia by Gladys Knight in the Pips. Beautiful song, and even more beautiful now that I realize or that I found out that that was one of my grandfather's favorite songs. So we are back. You're listening to DJ Morena Libre, the Feminist Hour, La Hora Feminista. Thank you to those who have been listening to us. I know we try and do quite a bit of just talking to people and telling them about the show, and so we really do appreciate those that are listening, who have been listening since we started. I do want to remind people that we do have a Gmail. It's the feminist hour at gmail.com, and we also have an Instagram page at Radio Feminista. So please go check us out. Send us emails. Please, any comments, any feedback. Doesn't have to be a long email. Just a little, these are some suggestions. We are putting this show out there so that students and the wider community can start, we can start having conversations around feminism. And then what does feminism really look like from the ground up, right? When you're trying to understand the community, trying to understand what people are listening or learning about feminism, because it's out there, and it's with us, right? So it's something that we need to understand. And you don't have to be a woman also, right, to be a feminist. So that is something that actually take in mind as well, right? Consider it. And then, what is it that we know? I am really interested in talking to people, come on the show and asking them the question, what does feminism mean to you? I also, if I can, we're going to try and get those for you in a later show. But I try and ask people and record them wherever I'm at. I've done some in the National Women's Studies Association conference, and a few out in the community. So I'll be uploading those and then showing those or playing those at a later show. So right now, what I want to do is give you 5 things to know for today. It's some news. It's mainly from CNN, but it's just out there and they grab it from the Associated Press. But number 1, so there was a German shooting. 7 people were killed during a mass shooting on Thursday at a Jehovah's Witnesses Kingdom Hall in the German city of Hamburg, in what the country's leaders denounced as a brutal act of violence. The alleged perpetrator also died in the incident, Hamburg police have said. There is no confirmed information on the motive for the crime. Police are stating this in their statements. As the investigation remains ongoing, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has led politicians in denouncing the murder spree in northern German city. So several members of the Jehovah Witness fell victim to a brutal act of violence last night. My thoughts are with them and their loved ones, he wrote on Twitter. What a tragedy. What a tragedy. Again, it goes back to gun violence, right? It's a global phenomenon. Number 2, Mexico's kidnapping. Well, really, Matamoros, right? If you haven't been tuned in, this is part of the news that was going on last week and over the weekend and continued this week with the kidnapping of 4 U.S. citizens. A week after the kidnapping of 4 U.S. citizens in Mexico, investigators are still working to piece together how and why the abduction unfolded. This comes after a cartel apologized for carrying out what one victim's father has called a senseless crime that left 2 U.S. citizens and 1 Mexican woman dead. The Gulf Cartel, which is believed to be responsible for the kidnapping, also issued an alleged apology letter and handed over 5 of its members to local authorities. You don't see that often. The tight-knit group of friends had traveled from South Carolina to Matamoros so that one of them could undergo a medical procedure, but they were violently intercepted by gunmen who fired into their vehicle, loaded them into the back of the truck, and took them away. So this has been, again, an ongoing news here locally. It's another tragedy, and it's just, a discussion that we need to be having as well in the larger community because, Matamoros, we have family in Matamoros, we have community in Matamoros, and we need to be aware of what's going on over there. The violence that has been increasing. I just spoke to several students who commute every day to come to school here at UTRGV, and it almost feels in the conversations that the violence is at that point where it's normalized, where balaceras are happening on a daily basis. So this is something that we need to be tuned into. Number 3. So 5 things that you need to know for today. We are on number 3. Biden's budget. President Joe Biden released his annual budget Thursday, outlining his policy priorities for the year ahead. So Biden's 2024 budget mostly rehashed the president's earlier proposals to expand the social safety net and to pay for it by raising taxes on the wealthy and corporations. He wants to restore the expanded child tax credit and make permanent enhanced, I don't like using the Obamacare word, but here it states Obamacare subsidies, the Affordable Health Care Act subsidies. And he wants to provide universal free preschool, make college affordable or more affordable, and establish a national paid family and medical leave program. All these sounds great. And these are all feminist issues as well. However, the proposed budget has no chance of making it through the Republican-controlled House. It could still frame upcoming political battles on Capitol Hill. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4, China. So Chinese president was reappointed today for another 5 years in a ceremonial vote in Beijing's Great Hall of the People. It was a highly choreographed exercise in what is considered political theater, meant to demonstrate the legitimacy and unity of the ruling elite. He did receive a unanimous 2,952 votes, followed by a standing ovation. The reappointment, she is China's most powerful and authoritarian leader in decades, was largely seen as a formality after the 69-year-old secured a norm-shattering third term as head of the Chinese Communist Party last fall. In 2018, China's legislature abolished presidential term limits in a ceremonial vote, effectively allowing Xi to rule for life. Nonetheless, his reappointment as head of state officially completes his transition into a second decade in power. Back to the U.S. Let me see. Number 5. A federal appeals court on Thursday upheld a Florida law that raised the minimum age to purchase a gun from 18 to 21. The law was initially passed after 17 people were killed in a shooting by a 19-year-old at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in 2018. The 3-0 ruling from the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals comes as age-based restrictions are shaping up to become a flashpoint in the legal battles over gun access since the Supreme Court last year laid out a new test for determining a gun restriction's constitutionality. But the ruling may also be short-lived after Republican lawmakers in Florida this week introduced a bill that would lower the minimum age required to buy a firearm in the state from 21 back to 18. Yep, that's what's going on. So those are the 5 things. And again, in this show, we've been talking about gun violence, right? And this is a clear example of the type of policies that are, if that affect our how many guns are out there and the type of, and the increase in gun violence. So please pay attention to those. Also pay attention. I was really hoping to have our guest today, but they weren't able to come. But they were going to talk about, I was interested to know about the bills that are being passed here in Texas, particularly in the legislature. So please pay attention to those. They're going up this week. They should be going up today, so that people can go and read them and find out what's in the docket for them. But so please pay attention to that as well. So what is next? I'm going to play Cama y Mesa. So Cama y Mesa is a beautiful song, but this one is being sang by Alma Velasco, and I'll tell you a little bit more about this song when you get done listening. So right now, let me see, drop it in. And there we go. So now you're going to listen to Cama y Mesa by Alma Velasco. We are back, and we have our guest here today.
Hi, my name is Garcia. Wait. You might know me as DJ Gorilla on other podcasts like Inside the Squared Circle and The Junk Drawer.
Oh. How many shows do you have?
Technically 1, but and I'm just filling in for the day.
No, you're a guest.
I am a guest. All right, guys, I'm gonna be upfront with you. I know very little about feminism. What I know a few things. I've been on. Look, my experience comes from Reddit and Ask Feminist.
Oh.
It does educate me a lot on issues that I vaguely know about.
Okay, so can you tell me? Wait, you mentioned Reddit, and you mentioned what else? Ask
Feminist. It's a subreddit on Reddit, so it's like it's one source.
Okay, can you explain what Reddit is?
Okay, so Reddit.
For my generation, or
okay,
for me, I don't know.
So Reddit is it's a social media platform, it built around topics like subreddits. These topics can range to a lot of things. They could be judo, they could be at feminism, and more often than not, they're more about like media. At least that's what I go there for. Go there for Star Wars, wrestling, football.
Okay.
And you do have the occasional not good subreddit. Saltier Than Crate was an incredibly sexist and probably racist sub that was created after the 8th Star Wars movie. There's also stuff like this one hurts me.
Okay.
Men's rights, which
men's rights.
Yeah, okay. So this was a long-standing thing, and so men's rights it never really was that good. It was built around the idea of just like, feminists
are taking over.
Yeah, it was that. It was that to a T. Men's lib was the kind of counter reaction to it. But they've had like a kind of a back and forth with us feminists because it does center a lot of men's, I guess, viewpoints, but a lot of the time men, I'm gonna say this straight up, like we're not. It's hard for us to kind of comprehend like a lot of the sexism that women deal with in relation to our own like experiences. So sometimes actual issues can also come off as very much like, why won't someone, very entitled almost, if that makes sense, and very focused.
From a male's perspective.
From a male's perspective, yeah.
Thank you for stating that.
Yeah, no, trust me. If there's one thing I know, okay, this is going to sound...
Reddit has taught you well.
Reddit has taught me well. And so the other thing that okay, real quick, if you actually do want like a kind of, maybe not male focus, well, kind of, like one that's traditionally like bro pill. That's, if you're on Reddit and you're like, you want a men's perspective, usually men's perspective, but everyone's welcome, bro pill. So much fun. The community is super welcoming. It's all about like kind of like, it's not so much a political sub. I mean, I guess it inherently is, but it is more about like, you're doing okay. If you want to talk about your issues, it is here to talk to you about stuff.
Oh wow! And this is a global community.
It's a global community. It's very small compared to like a men's labor, a men's right, or a men's rights.
No. But in terms of just Reddit,
yeah. It's from everywhere, but mostly the time you'll probably usually get like white, straight, cis. Well, not white, straight, or cis. Mostly it's probably an American kind of context, maybe European, maybe from some other parts of the world.
Okay.
But it is Reddit, but then again, that could be my own bias because that could be my viewpoint because like, oh, I'm from America. Obviously, everyone else must be from America too. It's one of the things about being, at the heart of. I've seen people use this term before, the heart of the empire, for lack of a better word.
Here in the U.S.
Yeah.
It is an empire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but you jumped a little bit.
I did jump.
You jumped way far ahead.
This is my. I'm talking about global imperialism and a topic about Reddit. My God.
Hey, there's a connection.
There is a connection.
So Edgar works for Vaquero Radio.
Yes, I do.
Tell them what you do.
I am a reporter. Okay. I have a week to round up a story and tell people about it. It used to be one story, which was way easier, but now I'm at two, which honestly isn't that much more difficult, but it definitely tests my time management skills.
Of course. You're doing 2 stories a week?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. On top of what else that you do?
Okay, so I have school that I do. I'm about to graduate this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And also have 2 podcasts that I kind of host. Okay. Inside the Squared Circle is basically we talk about wrestling, bad storylines, very, very nonchalantly. I explain it to a friend of mine. The most we've gotten from, like, the most charged, I guess, we've gotten from that discussion is when we were talking about the Muhammad Hassan storyline, which had a lot to do with Islamophobia, and the fact that WWE at the time was very much weaponizing the Islamophobia of its audience to kind of get heel heat. But that is a terrible idea to do.
To what? To do like...
Okay, they wanted to make a bad guy that was kind of based in white America's reaction to Islamophobia, because this was after 9/11. So basically, it'd be like if in the civil rights era, or like the second or third wave feminism, they released a character that was supposed to be like, I don't know, like
you're putting it in context.
Yeah. Basically, like, imagine if in like they released a character called the Feminazi, and like that was like you're just like weaponizing like a stereotype against like a marginalized group, which is a horrible thing.
To do,
yeah. And Junk Drawer...
But very strategic, right?
Oh, incredibly strategic. It made them, like, a lot of money, and even now he's remembered, maybe not fondly, but he is remembered as a character that got a lot of heat super quickly.
Wow. And this is where?
This is just, on the YouTube, Vaquero Radio. This is where you're listening to it right now. It's Mondays at, that's not the question you asked me.
That was not the question I asked you. You're good. You're good.
This was post 2001. This was post, not the Space Odyssey, post 9/11.
Yeah, but who was trying to create this character?
Oh, WWE. It's a wrestling company. It's the wrestling company.
Okay.
So basically,
we're talking wrestling.
Imagine if, like, to get a kind of proper idea, imagine if a Disney movie did that, and then, like, all the people that love Disney are kind of like ubiquitously attached to that.
Yeah.
It's at the time it was a monopoly. So.
Yeah, So it's wrestling. It's like where is it the same one that like The Rock came out of?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
And a lot of people watch that. I used to watch that back in the.
I am convinced that everyone watched it at a certain point,
Yeah.
and that there is just a certain subject that just comes back. Everyone, it is my personal theory. Everyone watched wrestling at a point in time in their life, loved it, and then like when they were 12, they fell out of it, and then a certain subsection at like 17 come back.
Actually, it happened to me way later in life. So I started watching it in the maybe late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand, I'm also 47. And also, Edgar is munching down. He's actually here during his lunch break, so I really appreciate that. But that's something we'll discuss later.
Thank you, ma'am.
Later. But yeah, no, I used to watch it, and then I stopped watching it. I just fell out of
Man,
love.
I'm just amazed you were watching it during that time. Okay, so okay, just I guess I don't know what you do on this podcast, ma'am. It's just so far I've just assumed vaguely feminist things. So my own like.
What? Okay, let me ask you the question.
Okay.
What does feminism mean to you, Edgar?
Oh, okay. So, semi-rambling long story.
Whatever you want, whatever you want. We just have like a few songs we need to play, but that's it.
Back in like I want to say when I was 12, my phone and I was on YouTube a lot, mostly watching video games and stuff like that.
Okay.
Became flooded with typical. I'm gonna say, Feminist Gets Wrecked
Now,
compilation.
how old are you right now?
I am 23, so this was 11 years ago.
Okay.
But I was in middle school at the time.
Okay.
And so, if you remember that, if you are a teen boy, or potentially like a trans girl or anyone like or whatever, but if you were like kind of in that space, like bunch of kind of guys, like lads, you would have remembered these compilations, and it was always I was never into them myself. Until I kind of got more into YouTube and watched this dude called Sargon of Akkad.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, he's a Nazi, straight up.
Okay.
But I didn't find that out until later.
Okay.
So, that kind of, I guess for lack of a better word, primed me into politics, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
But I kind of quickly realized this guy was not for me.
Yeah. Just because of his rhetoric?
Yeah, his rhetoric.
Course,
Like,
yeah.
So a lot of it would be like, oh, okay, like, it's very much... I guess women didn't do this, and like the media is telling us they did.
Misogynist.
Yeah, misogynist
Yeah.
kind of. And at first they would be like, I didn't know anything, so I just like, oh, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. No.
And that's how we fall in those traps.
Yeah,
right?
that's how we fall in those traps. And
Yeah.
what I mean is just like, oh, he told me like, it turned out shield maidens from Viking times weren't on the battlefield, and I thought like, well, I've got no reason to doubt that. But
when
just
you don't know the history.
yeah,
right?
yeah, and just as time went on, it's just like, this isn't making me happy. This is really sexist, but I can't figure out why.
Okay.
And then
That's really interesting.
yeah, so I just got a bad vibe off of it, and I just
Yeah.
stopped watching. I did that with another guy called like the Rageaholic. And as time went on, I just like, oh, these guys are saying like really bad things about these ladies,
Yeah.
in which I think I kind of get it but I don't quite.
It just didn't sit well.
It
with
didn't
you.
sit well with me, even though I kind of, I guess, semi-believed it.
And
Like
you were young.
And I was young. It wasn't until I think I was like 18, 19 that I found this lady called ContraPoints. And I guess Vosh, right? These are two YouTubers. Vosh is incredibly problematic, but I'm going to focus on like kind of that kind of thing.
Okay.
So around this time, I was also reading a lot of comics.
Okay.
Okay. And so comics, I take comics very seriously.
Okay.
My dream is to become a comic writer and just write a few stories. It's just...
Put it out there in the universe, yes.
Yeah. And I was reading a lot of Superman. At the time, I was actually kind of deeply unhappy. I don't know why. I guess I was really depressed.
How old was this?
17.
You were,
Failing classes for the first time ever. I had one friend that I actually really trusted.
Uh-huh.
And I remember reading comics for like the first time. And Superman saved my life. He gave me that kind of ideal to strive toward. If you've seen Man of Steel or like the original Superman.
Like Superman.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was around this time that I did find ContraPoints.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, I discovered, oh, she's a trans girl, right?
Who?
ContraPoints.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. She's a YouTuber.
Okay.
If you've looked her up, she is famous for, like, getting men out of, like, alt-right circles.
Really?
Like, that's how she started.
Uh-huh.
She just makes kind of, like political content now.
Okay.
But it's, like, it's very interesting. Look her up if you can.
Counterpoint?
ContraPoints.
Counterpoints. Okay.
Contra.
Contra. Oh,
Okay.
okay. Okay.
And at first I was like, duh, that's weird, and that's kind of like usual transphobia kind of thing, right?
Okay.
And then it was just Superman, and I was just like, what? I can't back out. What? Superman wouldn't. And so I watched a few videos, and it was enlightening. It was like, okay, politics. It took me a long time to get through them, and it was very much like fighting a lot of my own biases at the time.
Uh-huh.
And I realized I agree with her. I agree with a lot of the politics. The videos are entertaining, which was definitely a bit of a mess for me.
Yeah. You're a visual person?
Well, not that I'm a visual person. It's more just like, oh, what does that mean for me?
Okay.
Like, very much like fragile masculinity kind of thing.
Oh.
And then it's like, I want to be a better person.
Oh.
I want to do better. I'm learning about this stuff. And if I could, maybe I would stop myself from even looking up a single video so I wouldn't have to do this. But I couldn't, so I can't. And that's when, like, I went on Reddit and just, like, I have questions about stuff. So I went to Ask Trans, Ask Socialist, Ask Feminist. And Ask Feminist is kind of what I want to focus on, because I asked, if you were active on that time from, like, when I was in college, I'm like 18 now.
Yeah. And
I just kept asking questions, asking videos like, okay, asking, like, how do you guys feel about pornography? How do you guys feel about, like, X or Y?
Yeah.
How do you feel about this media? How do you feel about, like, this perception of things? What do I need to do to be a better person? Like, and when I think of, like, feminism, I think of, like, that upbringing, right? Of, like, that's how I got introduced to everything. And so a lot of it is framed through that lens of, like, superheroes and internet politics. Basically, my view of it is just something is not right with the way the world is structured right now.
Okay.
Whether that, and I'm not just going to talk about feminism here.
No, go
yeah.
ahead. I mean, feminism
it encompasses a lot of stuff.
Everything. Yes, it's the whole. Yeah.
If we're going to talk about feminism as, like, the pure view of, like, how women are treated in society, that is worthwhile. But I'm talking more in a general sense of, like, how things should be. So I learned about a lot of things. I learned, this is going to sound really clickbaity and weird, how sidewalks were sexist.
Sidewalks?
Okay, basically, it's a very clickbaity title to say city planning was usually done by men for men.
It is. It's
Yeah.
most often.
So women's perspective and needs weren't really taken care of that much. And this ranged from a few things, like women are usually caretakers, so like changing stations and other things would be probably more prevalent had they designed it. Grates would probably be a bit easier if women are wearing high-heeled shoes or something like that. Now, these are very surface-level things, but they are very much, okay, I can kind of see that. And from, like, stuff like that and interactions like that, it's a lot of stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's what that's the root of feminism.
Yeah. And from that point on, it was also interesting to see how other intersections came into it. Capitalism was a big one.
Okay, explain.
Okay, so I've had this discussion with my dad a lot, but basically, when someone gets divorced, or, like, let's say the occasional one that you always hear is accused of rape but didn't actually rape anyone,
Wait. So
that one's different. I'll get to that later.
Okay, because you mentioned divorce.
Yeah,
and you mentioned
and divorce.
rape. Yeah.
Women have a hard time. Like, everyone always says, like, the courts will always take away the child, like, from the dad to give it to the mom, and that's kind of true some of the time. But a lot of the time, that is also because women they don't need the child more, but, like, women after divorce are far more likely to end up in poverty than the man is.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
That's a true statistic. I don't know the numbers, but it is a
Yeah.
true statistic. Yeah.
And that's because, like, poverty sticks to men less. That's a very weird way to phrase it, but from what I understand, it's because men are more likely to be able to be employed, to be able to do stuff. And usually in this scenario, they're not taking care of the child as much. And women are going to have to either, if they're going to give them the child, that's going to be something that's hard for them. Or it just might be easier for them to get on welfare, because that will give them more money than, let's say, going out and getting a job.
Yeah.
There is a point in economics, or I guess, like, personal economics, where the money you get is going to be less than if you weren't on welfare. You will become more in poverty if you weren't on welfare.
Okay, explain that to me again.
Okay, basically, let's say you have $0, right?
Yes.
And the government gives you $2,000 for getting a job, right?
Okay.
and you get to 2,000 every year. Like, you see if you can live off that. If you get a job, but some jobs out there will only pay you so much, you could end up making 1,500 a month, and then at that point, it's just like,
Yeah.
I'd be better off if I was on welfare than if I had a
So
job.
that's a good example of what happened during COVID,
Yeah.
right? Which is we started, many people started receiving unemployment,
Yeah.
and the unemployment was paying more than the actual salaries.
Yeah.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that happens? That phenomenon happens in economics, right?
Yeah.
And especially when we leave it to the market.
Oh God. Oh, okay. I am speaking in.
And this is really
Yeah.
no. I mean, those are questions, right?
No.
I'm just picking your brain. The thing
Yeah.
is that we have a misconception.
Mm-hmm.
One, the minimum wage is what right now?
12.
No. This is
9.
This is at UTRGV.
Sorry.
I'm talking about the.
The actual minimum wage.
The
I think it's
minimum
like 7.25 or something a little bit higher, or 9.25.
Would you, as a student, be able to live off of 7?
Absolutely not. I can barely live off 12.
But exactly, right? So there is a disparity between what the government considers a standard living wage, right? And then there is the corporate or the other institutions that place that haven't raised that minimum wage, right? So yeah, and I mean any business, any corporation out there can use the minimum wage as the base salary.
Yes.
Legally, that's all they have to pay you.
Yeah. I think like the actual living wage is around like $25 or something like that, where someone could reasonably live off that, still have enough for expenses and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so that's, I guess, to get it back to the actual question, like what does feminism mean to me?
Yeah.
That's something that, in my opinion, is intrinsically tied to feminism, because one of the things that I've learned to, like, I guess not like, I don't want to say despise, because it doesn't affect me that much, is girl boss, white capitalist feminism, I guess.
Okay. Tell me.
If you've ever seen, like, Sex and the City, or, like,
Yes.
what's another one, like, or just, like, the entire, like, girl boss, smash the patriarchy, go through the glass window.
Okay.
Or Giggle. That's one I found out about recently. It's this app that was made for women, but it kept a lot of trans women out.
Oh.
Or black women, too.
Okay. Oh.
Basically, it's not about changing hierarchy. It's about putting yourself on top of it. It's actually kind of similar to, like, a lot of, like, incels and, like, men's rights activists, where they themselves do not want to change the system. They want to be on top of it.
Yeah.
Which is taking something that's supposed to be, like, a noble goal. Like, either way, it's supposed to be, like, oh, empower women. Or, like, let's actually talk about the issues that men face and turn it into something incredibly personal and incredibly just distasteful, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why my view of feminism has to be intersectional. And I know that's very basic. That is baby's first feminism.
Actually, it's not. I mean, we still need to learn more about intersectionality.
I know. It's just, I guess... That's the thing. That's one of the good things about going on Reddit. You do find out about ideas maybe before, like, you've actually internalized some of the basic ideas.
Or before they've even made it into the academy or
Yeah.
higher ed. Yeah.
So, yeah, intersectional feminism is something that if you're going to do... this is a very weird way to phrase it. Do a feminism, you're going to want to, like, learn how everything interacts with each other. Because someone who is, like, let's say poor, but still white and still, like, cis and straight... But a girl is going to have a far easier time climbing up rankings than, like, someone who is maybe, like, a dude, but also black and gay and, like, and trans and, like...
I don't like to use that approach in terms of the...
It's
oversimplified.
It oversimplifies and it creates, I think the term is oppression Olympics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when in reality, right, it's really the... misogyny, the racism that we experience, it's very place-based, right? You need to look at how those dynamics in place are interacting. You just to figure out, okay, what's really happening there, right? And so doing those, like you said, oppression Olympics, right? It's problematic. It's problematic.
It's also
for us to be able to understand
what the actual...
Exactly,
what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Which from what I've heard from other people is why the activist kind of mindset is to look at everything as a problem-based solution-solving thing. To explain that, it's just like, don't focus on the Pressure Olympics. Don't focus on, okay, who has it better, who has it worse, etc. Who should be at priority. Try to solve all problems and treat X or Y like problems. Like, let's say, okay, like, this person's white and gay and a woman. What do they deal with, and you fix that. Like, you fix the sexism inherent in that. You fix the homophobia inherent in that. This person's black trans dude. Okay, fix the transphobia. You got to fix, like, what they're dealing with, like, whether it's hard to get testosterone or whether the police are, like, picking on them and stuff like that.
Yeah. And the legal system, too, right?
Oh, God, yeah.
That's a whole other conversation for another day. But, you know, one thing that I want to mention here is that I think that you have shown me one, how curious you've been about the subject,
Yeah.
right? Even though, I mean, just one quick question though. How did you learn? Did you ever take a class here? Did you come here in Bronzeville? Were you in Bronzeville?
I was in Edinburgh most of the time, and usually no, actually.
No, but in school, K through 12, where did you go?
Los Fresnos. I went here throughout my entire school year.
Okay, so then any school, any class, anything that you took in school that you were able to say, okay, this is some grounding on feminism.
No, absolutely not.
No.
Okay, so up until middle school, no, not a chance. Our sex ed class was woefully hindered.
So that was so yesterday I found out from some students that they didn't take sex education until middle school, and then that was it. Like
Never talked about it again. It's one of the things that I did learn about feminism, and it's the issue with pornography.
Yeah.
Because
that's a big topic within feminism.
Oh God, yeah. It's gonna be very wrong and weird to say, but discounting the issues within the actual industry, which is a lot of abuse,
But you can't discount those.
No. What I mean is not to discount it. I mean to like not focus on it, for lack of a better word.
Put it aside for.
Yeah, put it aside for now.
Okay.
One of the worst things that it can do is that it's also kind of the only way that a lot of people view porn or sex in general. Because, like, once again, I'm me. My dad talked to me about sex a little bit. But there's only so much that I'd be comfortable with talking to him about, whether that be, like...
Of course.
Like, he taught me how to put on a condom and various other things, but, like, not going to go into that.
Yeah.
But the school focused on reproduction as a purely scientific basis, which, that's interesting. That is not useful for what kids are going to be doing, and they will do it.
Yeah. I wonder how it's perceived, though, that they don't continue the conversation throughout high school when it's really needed.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. That, say what you will about, okay, when's the right age to, like, introduce kids. By high school, they should kind of have an idea, because that's when they're going to be doing stuff. And more over than that, like, when we're talking about it, if porn is your only avenue for, like, how sex works... That is a terrible mindset to have. Because if...
Well, one, it's exploitative,
It's
right?
exploitative, yeah.
We need to understand the history of pornography and how it's impacted women, especially women of color, the most, right? And then there's also human trafficking involved in it, you know? So there's so many layers to... but, you know, all that gets skipped, right? Because it's so accessible, unfortunately, right? And I mean, I grew up in the era when there were magazines. I don't even know if there's magazines anymore or any of that, but it's just such an exploitative industry. So I'm glad you brought it up because we hadn't brought that topic up yet.
Oh, no, pornography is incredibly important.
It is very important for us to know about, and to know its history.
Because, first off, like, just the trafficking aspect, the abuse in the industry, terrible. My God, those girls need a union.
Well, and not just girls, right?
Oh, yeah, guys, too.
Yeah.
Although,
but the majority are women.
The majority is
color.
women. It's one of those things. Like, guys are affected by it, and in certain
But
ways...
children.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know, so anyway, those are the conversations that we need to have, and it's something
Yeah.
that needs to be... we need to bring awareness to the topic of pornography and the exploitation of women and children, right?
Yeah.
In general, because that's not the only industry that exploits them. There's labor, like we're finding out through the New York Times that migrant children, those that are traveling from the south and are coming. They're working in child labor in one of the biggest, for some of the biggest companies like Ben and Jerry's. What's the other one? Not Gap, the other Banana Republic, I think.
Nike, massive one.
Nike. So tell us, what are you? Because we're almost going to wrap up. What stories are you working on right now?
Okay. First, real quick up on porn, because I
Okay.
do want to add this.
Okay.
If you're watching porn, and this is going to be the hardest sell I think I've ever pitched to anyone in the world, please pay for your porn. And I know that that's going to be very, very
I
odd.
can't believe I'm sitting here listening to this.
That's going to be a very...
not pay. Don't just.
No. If you need to do something with that, pay the women directly and look up actual feminist porn sites, because apparently they are a thing. And by doing that, you at least make
You're
it...
taking me to a world I have not.
It's what I learned on the Reddit, ma'am.
This is what you learn on Reddit, huh?
This what they told me when I asked this question.
Okay.
Like, if you have to do that, pay for OnlyFans, because that's still exploitative and that's still a mess, but it's far more likely that your money will end up in their hands. In their hands, it's probably far safer than if you were to just go on Pornhub.
I mean, I know out of New York, there are sex workers that are organizing. They have unions so that they can be able to get the protection that
And
they
that's
need.
why one of the things that you kind of got to look at when you look at feminism is also capitalism.
Yeah.
Because without those unions, it's
even
dangerous
more.
right now, but it's
Yeah.
be far more dangerous without a union. And to get back to the story I'm working on. Okay, so today, Texas Youth Advocate Group, activist group, petitioned City Council to help them with transportation to reproductive services.
Okay.
Now, reproduction is not technically illegal. Not reproduction, but abortion is technically not illegal in Texas.
Okay.
That is one thing that Roe v. Wade got rid of the protection around abortion. But you can still technically get a legal abortion in Texas. So, right now, what they are advocating is put pressure on city council, protest, show up, support them on Instagram, and see what they can do
Okay.
to get something similar to Kyle City. Because Kyle City provides transportation to abortion clinics, STI testing.
Is this here in Texas?
This is here in Texas.
Okay.
So this is local. It is around the same size as Brownsville, maybe a bit smaller if I'm correct.
Okay.
So this is something entirely actionable that you can do. So if you want to help them with that, absolutely. If you want to just provide rideshares to anyone who needs a reproductive health, whether that be abortion or whether that be STI testing or anything like that,
And it's not illegal to transport them there.
please do
either.
that. No, it's not illegal to do that either.
I just want to clear. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
want to make sure I state that. Yeah.
The only reason and if that's one thing that feminism has taught me is that it is not enough to have a right opinion on something. You can believe that sex workers are exploited all you want, but if you're still watching porn, you're still contributing one way or
It's
another.
Contradictions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's still harsh because you still live under capitalism. You are
Yeah.
still a person that does have needs.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's like make the right choice if you can. Help out people when they need help like that.
Okay.
And that is legit all I know about feminism. I'm so sorry.
No. But going back to your story, right? In terms of the right, the.
Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, just to actually make sure I get their name right,
Okay.
I do want to specify the actual handle so you guys can actually see it.
Okay. And what's the second story you're working on?
Oh, the second story is actually kind of similar.
Okay.
The second story I'm working on, which I'm about to finish, is the Right by the River podcast. It is a podcast highlighting local artists and writers from here in the Valley or Mexico or kind of in the area about their own about their work.
Isn't that Dr. Emmy Perez?
Dr. Emmy Perez,
No, yeah, Emmy Perez.
and run by and hosted by Maribel Sanchez and Andres Torres Scott.
Okay.
It's an incredibly interesting podcast about people's life here, how it influenced their work, etc. They had Dr. Leticia Uriete, I think I'm saying her name right.
Okay.
She wrote an amazing book on Los Criaturas. I don't actually know the name of it.
Okay.
If you're looking for it, it's got a woman scorpion on the cover, and it's an incredibly interesting story about her experiences, and through the lens of genre fiction with monsters. about how she viewed sexism and racism that she's dealt with through the lens of fictional stories, through monsters and transformation.
Okay. Wow.
And I had a conversation with her, and it's incredibly fascinating just to discover that, because I am an alienated boy from my culture. I know a lot about it, but I don't know Spanish, so it is kind of like, you ever like heard of like No Sabo Kids or like coconuts and stuff like that?
Yeah.
That's like, I had the Edgar haircut as a kid. It's my name. So if you want like a poster kid for that, it's probably me. And so it's incredibly interesting to like talk to her about that, about her experiences growing up, someone far more connected to their culture, and compare it to mine, because like she always viewed it as like being a monster, like the monstrosity of being the minority, the marginalized.
The marginalized are the monsters?
Okay, basically, that is another view of media analysis. If you've looked at a lot of old Disney movies, queerness was inherently tied to monsterness and marginalization.
Okay.
But going back to that, it is also interesting from my perspective, because I could feel, I guess, for like a bit like an alien or like a robot, like some like not an agent of the system. I get, it's like very. It's an interesting kind of cross point to have. Please look up her book.
Okay.
And I should be better about this, but I'm always bad about rambling. I'm gonna give it back to her. Thank you for having me on your show, ma'am.
No, thank you, and look for that handle if you can. So we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you for today. We're gonna be bringing in students. Thank you, Edgar, for being first. And for coming in and sitting in because, DJ JC abandoned us again. I'm going to remind our audience about that, or our listeners.
Oh, God.
We're going to end today with, I'm in the mood. So the Cama y Mesa, that was a song by Roberto Carlos, a Brazilian singer. He's still alive. And it was he's one of my mom's favorite singers. But today we're going to end it with Ramón Ayala y sus Bravos del Norte. Y se va a llamar Mi Tesoro. So this song takes me back to my childhood, my aunt listening and blasting Ramón Ayala from the restroom, from the bathroom of our house. So here we go, Ramón Ayala. Did you find the handle?
Yes, I did, ma'am.
What is it?
It is TX Youth Activist Alliance. They do a lot of good work. So if you want to make sure that you have rights to abortion and reproductive health care, please look it up. See if you can help out. The people that work there are incredibly helpful, and they're based in the area, so you're not even going to have to go far.
Okay, and we need to talk more. I'm interested in Reddit and how you've been educated by Reddit.
Okay, ma'am, if you can have me on your show another day, I'd be up for it.
Sounds good. Thank you, Edgar. Okay. Well, here's Mi Tesoro. Everyone have a great weekend. Be safe.